Alright, I have here a piece of pine. It's a piece of 6/4, so that means it's just about 1.25 inches. Actually, no, it's more like 1.125 inches, so this is probably 5/4. And it's about 4 inches. And it's about 18 inches long. So what I decided to do was a lizard. And here's a picture that I used as a reference. But this one's on a piece of driftwood. I'm going to piece is that the delicate parts, the feet and the tail, are supported, as you can see, by the log. They're just a high relief carving. So what I'm doing here is just a freeform piece. So now, since it's pine, it's going to give me some difficulty with this early and late wood grain here, so I'm going to have to deal with that. Also, wherever I have something thin, like the toes, and also this curve going across this grain right here is going to be pretty delicate. So what I've decided to do, and if you look at the other, remember from the other picture, right down the middle there's a spine. Okay, so the spine is going to be raised up, kind of a triangular fin type thing, and I think that'll help support it a little bit in this thinner section. I'm going to have to be real careful with my carving down here, that's for sure, so I don't lose it. But I chose this pattern. One of the reasons I chose this particular design was that in a lot of lizards the tail actually curves around almost in a complete fishhook shape, and I was really afraid that was going to break off. And then what I decided to do with the feet here was I'll have part of the toe, one of the toes on the foot touching the body. Here's it's going to touch the tail also here. This one's going to be hanging out there. That's going to be a tricky one to not break off. And this one, it'll be touching the neck here. I have to do a little more research on where the eyes and the nose are supposed to really go, but I'm at least putting these little circles here to indicate what I'm going to do. And I've also gone ahead and drilled in these negative spaces a little hole, because, well, that'll help me when I get in there with the bandsaw. But these closed ones, these closed areas right here and here, I'm going to have to cut those out on the scroll saw. So that gives me a place to put it. And also I've learned that putting the pilot hole, these are kind of large, these holes, but I did that so we could see them. But put them right near the edge where it's where the line is, not in the middle of this space, and it gives a better result. So I learned that a little bit from the scroll saw form. I'm not an expert scroll sawer, and this is kind of thick for a scroll saw, but it's just a couple small areas, so it should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and rough this out, and I'll come back with a blank. Alright, well, here's the rough out that I did for the lizard. So, you can see this is really thin. Let's see the grain. See the grain running across here. So this is going to be a tricky spot. Plus, notice how this grain is running here. If I try to cut across this, it's just going to be fighting me all the way. So I might actually have part of the tail come up off the... I might actually have it dip here with the grain and just follow this. I'm going to follow along this grain. It's going to make my work a lot easier. Also, well, I don't have much choice here on the legs. I think I want to have these. This is either going to sit flat, or it might actually be. I might actually make this to be climbing up the wall. So in any case, I want it fairly flat to the table, but I will round the body and the legs to some extent, but it'll be flat on the bottom. I don't think it's going to be. I'm not going to carve all four sides on this, so I'm going to carve it, the body, so that it returns underneath, curves around, but the very bottom may actually just stay flat. Intended not to be seen. And the trickiest part here is probably going to be right here. First of all, I have a thin part on a weak leg, and this is going to be much thinner too. So this is probably going to be, half of this or a third of this in thickness when I'm done. So, and then these toes really taper down, and they're going the wrong way with the grain and thin. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. So I have to be very, very careful and use some very sharp tools. And like I said, when I want to go across this dart where the grain is going here, see how that? When I want to go across that, it's going to be fighting me every step of the way. So this is going to be a tough spot. This won't be too bad. This body will be fine. This will be a little tricky out here with the toes, but it's attached to the body. And then right in here is here, this part right here, this much and this much are very subject to breaking off because of the grain. So, you know, what I might actually try to do, since it's upside down, is actually carve something into this right here and also here. Carve a little groove in there, possibly, or even use a router. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but... And then I could put a piece of wood going long grain in there. I don't know, even a piece of wire or something just to reinforce it. I'll think about that. Anyway, so I think this is going to be next project for me. Should be interesting.